I am the Notherian, and I'm here for another Rise of the Forgeborn Draft video. I'm pleased to have with me today Kit
Hey guys, how you doing?
to help out with the picks and hopefully increase our chances of winning. So this is Pack 1, Pick 1, and although this is a Rise of the Forgeborn Draft, looks like every card here is from the alpha set.
Yeah, that's slightly disappointing. I love playing with the new stuff. I can't wait until we get that additional pool of cards coming up soon. But for now, I mean, at least we have some choices. There's definitely, no absolute clear pick here.
Yeah, so I think my Uh, not necessarily the best pick, but I think my favorite pick here is Wildfire Maiden. I really enjoy the kind of aggressive Tempest decks that I end up with when I first pick something like Wildfire Maiden. I just find it to be an incredibly flexible card, and I've won if you can get a lot of damage onto your opponent early, which is something Tempest excels at. I've won a lot of games by activating the Wildfire ability, usually with something like a Warbringer Aronti or a Primordial Slam to finish off an opponent during player rank 2 or 3.
Yeah, I find the card incredibly interesting in draft. The ability for a creature to do direct damage is something we don't really have too much of, especially in mass like this. So definitely can see how that would apply to an aggressive strategy. Me personally, I'm not very good at aggressive strategies in draft, so I'll leave it to the master to sing the praises on that card.
Uh,
The card I'm most excited about is Rite of Grimgaunt, as it should be called. But this card, I don't know how much you guys have been playing the new set, but I mean, when you have cards like Night Gaunt, Aether Guard, Volt Blockade, Ossuary Spirit, things like that, this is the kind of card you want. For me, my most successful draft archetype has been building a monster, and what better way to build a monster than cards like Rite of Grimgaunt and Dryad's Boon. I actually think in most scenarios that Rite of Grimgaunt is going to be one of the most powerful spells that you can be using to pump your board. Yes, sometimes it's hard to find a chance to cast this, but you don't have to have this cast at level 1 for it to be good. This card is going to be good whenever you can throw it on a monster and just start taking over the game with it. This would be my first pick, though admittedly it's not the unanimously best card in the pack. You want to talk about the best card in the pack?
well,
Quote
yes,
unquote?
certainly you can't go wrong with a Battle Tactician. Battle Tactician was an incredible all-around card in the previous draft format, and it certainly hasn't gotten any worse. The thing I love about Battle Tactician is its flexibility. So you can use it with cards like Technosmith or the new Aloyan Gnome to help you to survive the early game with some subpar creatures or subpar bodies and build up to an incredible late game. Alternatively, Battle Tactician can support some very aggressive strategies. You can use it with mobility, play it with like Wind Primordials along with War Chargers, and get a lot of damage through to your opponent during player ranks 1 and 2. Leave them at low health by the time they get their level 3 creatures. So I think it's a great all-around card. I can't fault anyone for first picking the Battle Tactician. That being said, I think that I don't often have Kit on chat with me here during these draft videos, and I certainly agree with him that Rite of the Grimgaunt has gotten a lot of interesting new targets in the new Rise of the Forgeborn set. And so I think that the build a monster strategy is one that is quite effective in Rise of the Forgeborn. I've certainly had it used against me on a number of occasions, and I think we should try that out since it's not one that I've done on video before.
Oh, absolutely. I'm okay with that. I did want to shoot one last comment at that Battletech,
Yep.
and that is the reason I call that the best card in the pack, just to expand on what Matt said real quick, is that this is a card that you can use in any archetype. It's a card that you can use aggressive, defensive, as utility, and I think that Wildfire Maiden and Rite of Grimgaunt are more powerful cards, but they're also very narrow. Battle Tactician is a card that has a wide array of uses, and it is slightly less powerful, though admittedly one of the most powerful cards. It's just the utility is why I think personally that 90% of the people who are playing in draft will end up picking that over the two cards that both Notharian and I like.
Yeah, and I've certainly ended up in drafts where I first pick a narrow card, and then the type of support that I need for that archetype doesn't come around, and I end up with a disappointing finish. So there is risk involved, and so I never fault anyone for taking all-around good cards like Battle Tactician or Flesh Fiend. So let's grab the Rite of the Grimgaunt and see if we can build up a or find some targets for it. I guess is got to be our goal. So is
Yeah,
there a
so
particular color pairing that you like best for Rite of the Grimgaunt?
So for building a monster, I generally like some combination of non-Tempest cards. Specifically with Rite of Grimgaunt, I favor Utera because it is the faction that you're going to get the most throwaway quote-unquote creatures to go with, just random chumpling creatures for free, like Bright Test Sower creates a sapling. You get Wildwood Sower, which is a great card to throw Rite of the Grimgaunt on. You get a bunch of things like that. That said, Aetherguard I think is my favorite card in draft, period, which always makes me want to lean Aloyan. That said, Delver's a really strong card, so I lean towards Delver here, but if we wanted to see if we can get another strong card, I would snap up the Rot Fiend and maybe get a strong Aloyan card instead if we wanted to go Aloyan.
Yeah, I mean, certainly nothing wrong with Rot Fiend. I mean, it's basically a good card in any Necrium deck. I wouldn't fault anyone for taking it here, but it's kind of a risky strategy because then we're going to a 4-card pack, and the 4-card pack could be 3 Tempest cards and a Battleoyan card.
Right.
And so,
Or another Necrium card.
haha, yeah. So I think probably establishing your color pairing or your faction pairing early on in a draft, I think has some value, and certainly getting Rite of the Grimgaunt on like a Delver 2 is something that can be scary, especially if your opponent misses the draw and the Delver just keeps growing.
I agree completely.
So we will grab that. And now, I guess ooh, this is actually hard. Certainly, Enrage is a great card whenever you're trying to build up monstrosity. Deathseeker probably is not the pick here, but it does go well with Rite of the Grimgaunt because it generates 2 bodies for 1 card, and the change to make it 10/10 at level 2, I think, really helped this card in draft a lot.
Oh, I agree. I think Deathseeker has become a card that I actively look for in draft, where it's before it was, oh, did I grab a Corpse Crawler? All right, I guess I'll take a Deathseeker. But now it's actually a card I want.
What do you
So
think of Vyric's Embrace?
So Vyric's Embrace, I find that I don't want too many of them, and it's usually a card I can pick up late. I think that it is one of the most powerful Necrium spells, but if we're building a monster because we took a Rite of Grimgaunt, we're already going to end up with a high amount of spells anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me not want to take a card like that early. I mean, my pick here, so this were pack 6, and we're looking at the same 4-card pack, and we have less than 8 spells, I take the Vyric's Embrace. So early, I just go in on my strategy, and I probably take the Enrage.
Yeah, I think the Enrage is an incredibly flexible spell, and yeah, I'm never unhappy to have an Enrage in the deck, and particularly if we're trying to build a monster, I think we'd be really unhappy if we didn't end up with at least 1 Enrage. Oh, wow. So I guess we're all in on this, huh?
I think we are all in on this. I mean, I can't imagine us taking Toxic Spores over Rite of Grimgaunt, and I'm never happy to take a Grimgaunt Spectre. I don't think I've ever been happy to take a Grimgaunt Spectre, even when I had a Wirewood Patriarch to mitigate the level 1 feel bads.
Yeah, so I did actually lose to a Rite of the Grimgaunt, or not Rite of the Grimgaunt, to a Wirewood Patriarch Grimgaunt Spectre deck earlier today. Not today, I guess it was yesterday. So it is conceivable somebody actually used the mobility 14/14 body to get in the last 12 points of damage they needed on me. And they were able to get the 5/5 at level 1 with the Weirwood. But yeah, it's so unreliable. You don't you don't want to count on a Spectre. So,
That
uh,
said, there are no 5/5 mobility creatures.
so true. So very, very true. Except for like Grimgaunt Predator, which is really just
Oh
better.
well, I consider him a 7/7.
Yeah, right. So we'll take the Rite of the Grimgaunt. We're obviously going to need to find some creatures for this deck, but this is... Oh, speaking of creatures, is there any creature... Well, I mean, I guess if we can't have a Night Gaunt, this has got to be really close to the top of our list.
I feel incredibly happy that that is the card that showed up. Also, with the pump that we have, really right now, I'm just looking to pull out Ferocious Roar, Twin Strength, and Dryad's Boon as the only other cards that we need to pick up. Like at this point, I don't even think I would take a Spirit Leash unless with the Wander, because we're clearly taking the Wander.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think I would take an actual pump card other than those three with what we already have for pump. Like, I think a Spirit Leash would have to be, like, one of the best cards in the back for us to take it. Like, there'd have to be no creatures or something.
Yeah, Spirit Leash is actually a card that I'm surprised it took people so long to catch on to. Spirit Link... Uh, you were looking for a Dryad's Boon kit?
So this draft is perfect. So there's plenty of really good cards in this pack that I would be happy to take. Venom Fang and Poison Coil in particular are cards that I really love. I see the Spring Dryad, but with our building a monster, we already have a Delver, and we have 3 types of pump cards. Spring Dryad is not the type of threat we want to be building. I don't think I can pass up a Dryad's Boon. I find Dryad's Boon, and like I said earlier, and Rite of the Grimgaunt, to be the most fantastic pump spells you can get. I think we take this and we just don't pick up any more pump spells unless it's a Ferocious Roar or another Dryad's Boon.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good strategy. And the Hydra here, I've had good luck either enraging or Dryads booning Lycian Hydras. So I'd be happy to end up with a Lycian Hydra, but certainly not going to take it out of a pack this rich.
Yeah, absolutely. So I especially like Lycian Hydra, how strong it is early game. Clearly, in the late game, it tapers off a little bit compared to other regenerators, but it's an early game pressure card. I definitely enjoy that about it.
Okay, so here, let's see. So we're definitely not looking at the Hungering Strike or the Cull. We have plenty of spells already. I guess the pick is between Graveghast or the Hunter.
Yeah, and I think that there are much better targets for pump than Graveghast, and if there aren't that we get, we'll certainly be able to find one later on. I'm going to take just the stronger card. Chiselheart's not a bad card to pump anyways, with its 8 toughness right out the gate, and it has higher than average toughness at every level. I think that this card is great when you have the types of pump that we already have.
Yeah.
Plus, Dryad's Boon and Rite of the Grimgaunt go in the exact same kind of deck that Chiselheart Thunder does.
Exactly. We're really hoping that we can pick up some Grove Matriarchs or Bright Tusk Sowers later on in this draft, and when we do, we'll be glad we have the Hunter.
I agree.
So, any thoughts here? This has got to be a tough pick, right?
Not at all. We're clearly taking natural selection.
Yeah, so I mean, Night Gaunt is, again, the perfect target for Rite of the Grimgaunt. There's actually even a thread on the forums recently about the strength of Rite of the Grimgaunt plus Night Gaunt in draft. This is really coming out well for us, so I can't... Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised to see a Night Gaunt this late in the pack. I've mostly been seeing him just in packs of 5 and 6.
Yeah, what I'm really excited about is you look at our deck so far, and we don't have any bad cards in our deck. Like, we went through a full pack of 6 and didn't get a bad card, and now we're 3 deep in this one and still no bad card. Notharion's going to like this one. My tendency here is to take the Prowler, both as a great blocker, but also as an amazing target for any of our level 2 pump spells.
Yeah, so I've had good success pumping Prowler. In particular, if you manage to level up something like an Enrage mid to late game, tossing like Enrage 3 on Prowler 1 can create an incredible behemoth. Also, the other thing is, with this deck, we could even find ourselves playing a Prowler early game in order to buy us some breathing room in order to get out a Rite of the Grimgaunt. And we're probably mean, we're probably going to end up leaving some creatures unblocked, given our strategy.
Mhm.
Early game, we're probably going to take a bit of damage, and Prowler is a way that you can recover some board position if you have to take some early damage.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I see the Graveghast, and people who want to go all in on the strategy might say Graveghast is the pick, or they might be like, well, Prowler scales poorly. I mean, look at our deck. We have pure synergy so far outside of the Delver, and the Delver is another bomb itself. We don't need any more synergy. Right now, I just
Mhm.
want to get good cards, and if we're going to take a card that's high synergy, let's make sure it's a good card that's high synergy.
Right, right. And I mean, it's still there's enough time left in the deck, or there's enough time left in the draft that we can hope to get another Darkheart Wanderer or another Night Gaunt, which is just so much better than Graveghast in this type of deck.
Mhm.
Um, ah, so uh, I'm never happy to take a hunting pack. I think um, I'm never happy to take a hunting pack, but on the other hand, there's I've had draft games that hunting pack won for me, and I don't think I can say that I've had a draft game that, well, I take that back. There was that one draft where I got the two Pterodon Rexes, and was able to put into play a 20-something, 20-something Stout Hide Stegodon 3. But barring the like perfectly aligned dinosaur deck, I've never really had the Stegodon come through for me, and Hunting Pact will sometimes come through for me in draft. So a Hunting Pack one as a blocker late game can maybe be good.
For me, I think I still lean towards the Stegodon. It is a potential target for our pump spells, simply because it does have that heal clause. It's not reliable, but I mean, I think I want to take bigger bodies at this point. I think I would still take the Stegodon even over an Aetherhound, at least for now, just because our only body that has relatively high power is the Prowler. I'd really like to get something else that naturally can be a roadblock as long as it's on level. I'm not against the hunting pack, but I'm also never happy to have that card either.
Yeah, I think it's a really close. I think it's a really close call here. You make a good point. I think that Stouthide Stegodon is certainly not the card that I want to be Dryad's booning, but it's it's possible if we draw, if on turn, if on turn 1.3 we drew a Stegodon and a Dryad's Boon and the rest of our hand was poor, tossing a Dryad's Boon on a Stegodon could work for us, counting on it surviving long enough to get the 10 heal.
Yeah, and again, that's the reason that I mean, I lean towards that is because it is a potential target that's also a large party. Like, if it was only one of those two things, like if this was
Mm.
a Graveghast or a Prowler, then I might take the pack. But since this can be both, that's why I lean towards it. But I'm
Okay.
happy taking the pack if that's
No, no,
preferred.
no. I'm not. I'm certainly not going to push us towards hunting pack. I think if it was an ether hound, I think if it were an ether hounds instead, that I would take the ether hounds. But let's grab the Stegodon there. Um, okay, this is an interesting pack. So, first of all, we only have one creature with 6 or more power at level 1. And so we're going to need some more level 1 power. And so for that reason, we've got to give serious consideration to the Swamp Moss Lurker. Uh, I think that Lightbringer Cleric is always just a solid all-around Utera card, but it doesn't have particularly good synergy with our deck. Similarly, we don't yet have anything that can benefit from the Tarsus, even though Tarsus is a strong all-around creature.
Hmm.
Uh,
Go ahead.
yeah, so I probably take the Lurker here, but I think certainly an argument can be made for one of the other two cards in this column.
Absolutely. Like, I'm happy to take a cleric whenever I see one. The 10-10 power at level 2 is absolutely crucial. People have heard me talk about rule of 6 since day 1 of draft, and cleric almost hits that. It's slightly worse at level 1, but the rest of it's really solid with having text on it. So I'm happy to take that. This is the faction pairing for Tarsus. So if we were to want to go in on that, we could. I feel like we already have a theme in our deck, and we don't need something like Tarsus. I feel like that pulls us slightly in the wrong direction compared to where we are, and I think we actually need the Lurker. So I think that no matter what, even if we were like in pack 1, I think I'd still take the Lurker here.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, and yeah, as you said, our strategy is working for us. We don't need a Tarsus backup plan. So, oh, excellent. So I think the pick here is the Sower. Although I'd be interested to get your thoughts on the Ooze.
So I actually have not been a fan of the Ooze outside of its art. I love the art on the token it leaves behind, and I will say that to the day I die. But I mean, for me, it's essentially at every level a worse Deathseeker and a slightly awkward any of the other cards. Like I would much rather have Deathseeker. Obviously, I can't always have Deathseeker. But by the same token, I don't know. I would prefer the other ones. If the Bright Tusk Sower wasn't here, I think I would pick the Ooze just because it fits our theme of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
It lets us relieve pressure in other lanes by being a chump blocker for 2 turns, so we can establish a bomb. But I think Sower does that and better by being able to block pressure in 2 lanes.
Yeah, and also with the Dryad's Boon, being able to get 2 bodies instantly to power a Dryad's Boon is sometimes a big swing.
Absolutely.
So let's... interesting. So I think the answer here is probably the Life Shaper Savant. I glance over at our deck, and I don't see a ton of Necrium cards.
I agree. I think the pick is Life Shaper Savant. It's sad because I actually wish we were more Necrium so I could make an argument for Aetherhounds.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think we... I guess afford is the wrong word. I think it would be incorrect to not take the Life Shaper.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Aetherhounds is a good card for our deck. For all the reasons that Bright Tusk Sower was a reasonable pick. I mean, I think Aetherhounds is generally worse than Bright Tusk Sower, but not so much worse that we would be unhappy to have it. So I'd definitely be happy to get an Aetherhounds, but given our deck, I think that Life Shaper Savant is clearly the pick here. We have so much Utera, and we have the targets for the Life Shaper Savant buff.
I agree.
So... So I guess the pick here is probably Hydra. Soothing Radiance is an interesting choice. I've gotten use out of a Soothing Radiance in this type of deck before because you build up a monster, your opponent finally finds a way to deal with your Enrage 3'd whatever, and you toss out the Soothing Radiance for a big swing, and the thing is that really for this type of deck, we'd rather have the new Verdant card, whose name I forget, as opposed to the Soothing Radiance, because we're really not going to have multiple targets we want to heal very often.
I agree. I would definitely prefer Verdant Grace, by the way.
Grace, thank you. That is the second half of the card name.
But I would definitely prefer that. I wouldn't be unhappy with a Soothing Radiance, but I'm not going to take it over a solid creature that also has the potential, at least at level 3, of supporting our buff. So if for some reason we have to aggressively level this because we have poor cards in our hand, at least it has synergy in our deck at the later levels.
And so here we are at the end of the pack. This is probably a strength in numbers. In most cases, every so often you get off an awesome strength in numbers, but in most cases a strength in numbers just seems to be a subpar in rage.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think the strength in numbers in our deck is really going to be, okay, I need this bomb to live by 2 health, or I need to give my Darkheart Wanderer an extra point of health. I don't actually think very often it's going to be used for the actual pump effect. It's more going to be used to keep one of our bombs alive, and I think I'm okay with that, and I think I like it better than the Gloom Reaper Witch.
Yeah, the thing, we've just got nothing to support a Gloom Reaper Witch here. We've got absolutely nothing that reduces the attack of a creature, so... the Gloom Reaper Witch is just going to be a bad body for us. Oh, this is an interesting pack. I don't even know where to start. I guess maybe we start with Spirit Leash, which is, I guess, an obvious synergy with our deck, although we already have a lot of good pump.
I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to kill me for wanting to pass the Spirit Leash, but the quality of our pump is already so high. We're already 5 spells in, and we're going to end up with more. I think that, well, normally Spirit Leash would be an auto pick for me. 2 Rite of Grimgaunts, an Enrage, and a Dryad's Boon. I mean, we don't need it, and we're gonna. I don't want to be a spell heavy deck. I'd like to, at most, end up with 8, max 10 spells in my deck. So I'm gonna pass on the Spirit Leash, even though I
And
think
we're
it's so
only
strong.
halfway through. Yeah, we're only halfway
Exactly.
through, and we don't have a lot of fodder for the Spirit Leash.
Right.
Uh,
So alternatively, um, the other cards I look at is everything in that right hand column. I
yeah.
think Branchweed Druid has some synergy with things that we're doing. I think that it's necessary to pick up enough Swamp Moss Lurker like cards in order to be good blockers. And I think Hydra's the least attractive option for those three, but it's something that you could consider if you had less attractive pump targets than we have. Personally, I think it's more closer to Branchweaver Druid or a Lurker, and I'll let you do the talk about which one you would pick and why.
So I would take the Lurker because I see that we're halfway through our deck, and we only have 2 level 1 creatures with better than 4 attack, which means we're at serious risk of getting some bad draws in player level 2 and player level 3. Everybody gets all level 1 hands on occasion, and right now our all level 1 hands are looking pretty scary, like scarily bad. So I think I really want the Swamp Moss Lurker for a strong level 1 pick. The Branchweaver Dryad isn't bad in Druid. Branchweaver Druid isn't bad. In particular, level 1 Branchweaver Druid I found to be very solid in draft. It's really not a card I like leveling early because the level 2 version of it just feels bad. It
Mhm.
recovers some power at level 3, but mostly I use it as an under-leveled card to power like Spring Dryads or Dryad's Boons, or just to be able to block 2 lanes to survive. So, anyway, I wouldn't mind having the Branchweaver Druid in our deck. Anything that produces 2 bodies to die for our Rite of Grimgaunt is reasonable. But yeah, I think we need to take the Swamp Moss Lurker. We just don't have any high attack creatures.
I completely agree, and that was what I was hoping you'd pick as well. So,
Let's see. Speaking of high attack creatures, so there's the Verdant's Grace, but I think we're, as you said, we're halfway through our draft. We already have 5 spells, and we're offered 2 good high attack creatures.
yeah.
Um,
So I want to point out something interesting. So normally I'm of the opinion see glutton pick glutton. That's one of my favorite cards to grab. I think the incidental damage makes it a much better card than Geist. But also I'm looking at our deck with a huge amount of must levels. And I mean, if you have to play one of these cards at level 1, that 1 damage from Gravegeist in this particular deck is probably going to matter a lot more, especially when its level 2 is the same as Glutton, and still its level 3 has an extra point of attack. I don't know that 18 attack means that much more than 17 attack at level 3, but I can assure you that the 7 attack at level 1 means a lot more than the 6 attack from the Glutton. So,
and
well, I
I don't
think that
think
the
we're ever
Glutton is the
gonna.
better card.
I don't think we're ever gonna get either of these. As you said, we've got so many must level cards in our deck. We're leveling our Life Shapers and our Night Gaunt and our Darkheart Wanderer and of course some of our pump. Um, Whatever card we take, this is not a card that's going to see level 3. And generally, when I take Gluttons, if I have a multiple Glutton deck in almost any game, I'm going to be leveling one of those Gluttons aggressively, and so the incidental damage really adds up. But yeah, as you say, I think given that we're not going to get either of the cards to level 3, the level 1/level 2 on Gravegeist is just really solid.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think we're winning by 10s and 20s, not
Yeah.
by 1s and 4s.
Yes, right. Where some Utera deck, actually some deck in particular, I've certainly played Tarsus decks in this faction pairing that win by 1s or 2s, where the Graveborn Glutton damage matters, because that, along with your unblocked Seedling, end up finishing somebody off. So
Absolutely. So we in agreement on Geist?
we're in agreement on Geist,
Sweet.
and I see yet another Swamp Moss Lurker.
And I mean, honestly, I don't think we need the spells, and I don't think Stag is right in our deck. So
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty easy lurker.
Good. And now all of a sudden, we've gone from having I think at the when I think the last three cards we've taken have all been high attack, and so we went from only having two high attack blocking creatures to having now I guess five, which is a big turnaround and certainly makes me feel better about this deck. Uh, so,
I definitely agree.
uh, s-
So what do you think, enrage or stack?
yeah, I think we're taking the Enrage here. I think Enrage is a good pump spell. We have one, two, three, four, five. This will be six, but I think we're far enough along that we can afford to take a sixth spell.
I agree. Only 10 cards left to pick from, but this is again why I didn't take that Spirit Leash earlier.
Yep.
If we took that Spirit Leash earlier, we would have to take the Stag, and I really don't want the Stag in our deck.
Right, and in particular, what did we take in? Oh yeah, we took the Lurker. So I mean, really, we could either have Enrage and Lurker, or we could have Spirit Leash and Stag. And I'm glad we don't have the Spirit Leash Stag. I'm glad we ended up with the Lurker plus Enrage.
Yep.
Ah, here we take. How on earth is there? I think that Brian Kibler just wrote an article telling us that Spirit Leash was one of the most popular cards in the history of Soulforge Draft.
And now we don't even have to wonder if not taking the Spirit Leash earlier was correct, because we
Okay.
got
But yeah,
rewarded.
now we need to be really careful about taking spells, though, because all of a sudden we're at 8, I believe? No, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And before you went into this pack, I was going to say I wouldn't take a Rite of Grimgaunt or a Dryad's Boon. I would only take a Ferocious Roar. And then we open the next pack and we see...
Yeah, so we need to take the Ferocious Roar. It's so good for this deck. And we
Well,
need...
also, the quality of the other cards in this pack are much lower than comparable to Ferocious Roar.
Right, and in particular, yeah, right. I mean, otherwise, we have nothing to support a Charnel Titan. So in Rage, I mean, we're not going to pass up a good spell for a average spell, and I guess we're comparing Ferocious Roar to Gravegeist, and now we all of a sudden have 5 of the high attack creatures in our deck. Yeah, this has got to be a Roar.
Yep.
Wow. But now we need to be really careful and make sure that we are taking creatures. And here is a situation where it will be very easy for us to take creatures given this pack.
Yeah, I am happy with either Sower or Sower.
Mhm.
I think Bright Tusk Sower, just because it's so good on its own, is the card I'm going to take, whereas Wildwood Sower is only good with our Pump. But we already have plenty of cards in our deck that are only good with Pump.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take the Sower. If this was like pack 1, I would take the Wildwood Sower over the Bright Tusk Sower. But so late, I'm going to take the Bright Tusk.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to add, I love Bright Tusk Sower. I love Bright Tusk Sower underleveled. We've got a lot of must-level cards in our deck, and Bright Tusk Sower 1, along with our Dryad's Boon or our Life Shaper Savant or our Ferocious Roar, can really create a lot of value. So.
I do want to point out that Wildwood Sower did get a buff in that last patch. The stats at level 2 and 3 both went up on the toughness end.
Oh, right, exactly. Because it was, I think, previously sitting at a very poor 6/9.
Yes.
Right, which made it almost unplayable in draft. Whereas now it actually will trade evenly with in particular, it will trade evenly with your opponent's 10/10, which is a good milestone. So let's... And I guess this is between the Marrow Fiend and the Venom Fang. I think the pick is Venom Fang. You want to explain why?
I do. I think the ability to impact multiple lanes is quite strong. Venom Fang is technically a Rule of 6 blocker because it's always hitting those benchmarks if you're poisoning the creature across from it. It's a sizable body, a great utility creature, and we already have 3 8-attack dudes. I don't think we need the Marrow Fiend. I'd rather pick up the utility.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think it is rare to find a situation where you'd rather have Marrow Fiend as a blocker than Venom Fang, and Venom Fang, just has so much more flexibility. And you're paying very little for that flexibility. Oh, this is sad.
So this is what we were looking to avoid, but we knew was very likely to happen. Personally, especially after taking the Venom Fang, I'm not interested in picking up poison cards. At least the Renewal, which is spelt wrong, will be able to help build a bomb. But I think it's either Toxic Spores or Renewal. I lean Renewal.
Yeah, so I I think in our deck I also lean Renewal. In general, Renewal has not played out as well as I had hoped it would. Early in the format, I had grabbed some more Renewals to play around with them, and it wasn't useful as often as I had hoped. On the other hand, this is the kind of deck where Renewal has a chance of being good. I think the only argument for Toxic Spores is our Life Shaper. But again, I don't think that's going to come up often enough. And every so often, if Ghastly Renewal is just enough regen to save our enraged Darkheart Wanderer and force our opponent to spend another powerful creature to kill it. I mean, it's not going to happen very often, but when it does happen, it could turn a game.
Absolutely. I really wish some of these. I wish there was a free armor spell, a surge cycle for regen, armor, mobility. A permanent mobility. I wish Aerial Surge gave permanent mobility. I wish. I hope that's something that comes. Even a Feral Instinct that gets free. That'd be really cool. I think those would be much more playable in draft.
Yeah, right. I think those type of cards would definitely have an impact in draft, and I think it's they've talked about adding a significant number of Rise of the Forgeborn only has 100 cards in it. They've talked about adding a significant number of cards to Rise of the Forgeborn, and so yeah, I think there's a lot of room for more interesting spells without even just playing around with the mechanics they have.
Exactly.
Oh, and now our deck 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spell deck. Surely it's Vyric's Embrace here.
Yes. I think this just means that Darkheart Wanderer is a really strong play.
Yeah, and I would love to get another Darkheart Wanderer in the last pack.
Yep.
Keep our fingers crossed. Yeah. So, want to take
so
this...
remember when I was going to talk about the Ferocious Roar, and then we picked it? Now you got a Darkheart Wanderer. You know what? I hope we get I hope we get another Night Gaunt in the pack after.
Yeah, this is... Yeah, this deck's actually really coming together well. I mean, I don't like playing a 10-spell deck, but when I do play 10-spell decks, I want multiple Wanderers.
I think you need to add that meme guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't always play 10-spell decks. So here, I think I just want to take the good blocker. I think that Hydra is not good enough to take over Geist. I don't think we want the Corpse Crawler. I like Corpse Crawler, and I know you like Corpse Crawler. I like it much better in this meta, but I think I'd rather just take the nakedly good card. Yeah. We have enough things that need to be eating up our 1/1s that we don't need Corpse Crawler to do it too.
Yeah, especially with the Spirit Leash that we picked up. I think you're absolutely right. I do like Corpse Crawler. I've been winning some games with Corpse Crawler recently in particularly, I had a really nice double Tarsus deck earlier this week. But, this is not the deck for Corpse Crawler. And now we're also up to, 6 creatures with better than 6 attack. I guess the Deep Branch Prowler is not technically a rule of 6 creature, but the Venom Fang is. So...
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take the Predator here just because it's a card that can grow on its own. It's another bomb, another threat. Also, it's a really good target for Rite of Grimgaunt or Dryad Spoon.
Yeah, actually, it's one of the scariest. I mean, Night Gaunt probably is perhaps the scariest card in our deck for Rite of the Grimgaunt, but Rite of the Grimgaunt on Grimgaunt Predator is definitely to be feared. I've been really happy with the way Zethian Crusher has played, but I don't like it well enough to take it over Predator.
I think we used Gaunt way too many times in that sentence.
Yes, clearly. This is going to be another Prowler?
Yes.
And final pick, we need the creature because we're already so spell heavy.
Yep.
And Druid's Chant has no effect on the board.
You remember earlier when I said that if we wanted a Grevgas, we could pick one up later?
Yes, indeed.
That definitely didn't happen.
Okay, so we will be back with you shortly to play out Game 1. Thanks a lot.